Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome to the 3324 podcast live edition. Hang on one second. I have one special effect I need to activate.
Good evening, everyone. There it is. There's his neon.
Now we have the neon. I've got the
Gotta
pink neon lighting because we are live in the 80s. We have set the Wayback Machine to some random year in the 80s, and we're going to be talking about everything 80s, from the fashion, the fads, the hair, the music, the movies, whatever the cringe was, or whatever we got away with. We're gonna dig it up and reveal it.
Cool. I'm ready to go.
We're gonna be
nice.
Andy. Hey, Andy. Yep. We're gonna be like Sam Neill in Jurassic Park with the brush on the raptor, revealing the raptor claw. We're gonna unearth everything from the 80s.
That's right. Well,
as much as we can do in an hour or so.
We can squeeze in, sure.
As much as we can do in an hour or so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So yeah, let's if we can get the chat going, let's see who's in there, because we are gonna have a giveaway tonight too. We're gonna have some fun. I figured, why not have some fun? So we're gonna be doing a giveaway. So all you need to do to enter the giveaway is just to put a comment in the chat. It could be even just a hi or hello. Oh, and there we go. We got nice, yay, pretty in purple. So yeah, so we've got already. I'm going to be putting everybody into this really cool app called Wheel of Names, and I'm gonna be typing at the same time, so Eric can kind of hopefully vamp and stretch for us. There we go.
Hey, Casey Bauer, how you doing?
Hello,
comment.
welcome.
He just put comment.
Andy feathered his hair for the occasion. I think he should have just went to, now that we're into August, Spirit is open. If you're a Halloween person, the Halloween stores have opened. So Andy could have just went and got the mullet part. And it's fun. There we go. That's all we needed. Comment. See? That's it. That's how it works.
That's the perfect thing to say. Comment. So
I can tell that autumn is in the air because I went into Dunkin' Donuts today, and guess what?
What's that?
They had pumpkin spice flavored coffee, and the donuts were out. So we're ready.
Yeah,
we are ready. The autumn season is here because Dunkin' Donuts has decreed that
once upon a time it used to be like much later in the year, and now it's like it just seems like you just can't get rid of it.
We're ready.
It's everywhere. I'm
ready for it. I'm ready for pumpkin
here in Tampa. You guys getting a lot of crappy weather down there, right? Because we certainly got some up here. I know I did today. It was torrential downpours today all day.
Oh, really?
Kind of tropical system going.
Yeah, we don't want that up here in New York.
No, we don't.
Keep it. keep it. Yeah, we had some humid weather. It's really been on and off. It's been weird.
Yep.
About a week or two ago, it was really unseasonably cool, which made me feel like autumn was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of really felt, but there we go. Now this is what I want to hear. I'll take early pumpkin spice over Christmas tree 3 months early any day, right? Because pumpkin spice is it's eternal.
Yeah, and he's not a fan of Christmas. In case you didn't,
Good. Well, we will leave him out of our invite for the Christmas season. He's going to be getting an invite for our Halloween.
No, I get what he's saying though. Every year it just gets earlier and earlier. It's like not even Halloween yet. People are still setting up for that, and we're already seeing Christmas stuff, and stores are changing, and it's crazy.
Yep. So,
but anyway,
we've got some housekeeping to take care of. As always, we have to shill for our latest episode because we do these on Wednesday, and then we have the episode on Thursday. But let's talk about the giveaway, which was very impromptu. I texted Eric in the middle of the day. He's like, "Hey, you want to do a giveaway?" He's like, "Sure, as long as you pay." All right.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. For the record, I'm always offering. Okay, you're just like, no, it's got to come from me.
I told Eric when we did this, I needed to have all of his bank routing information, and he sent it right over. So I was actually pretty happy about that. I'm like, we're not really doing a podcast; just want to enter your accounts. So what we're doing today is everybody that leaves a comment, we're going to put your names into a random generator. It's a kind of like a wheel of names, it's called, and we're going to be raffling off 2 80s related Funko Pops. Everybody loves Pops. I thought about getting a Blu-ray or vinyl, and I'm like, well, maybe if someone doesn't have a turntable, what are they going to do? Blu-ray, yada, yada, yada. So number 1, we're going with the Devo Whip It Funko Pop. I saw this and I'm like, this is it. This is the 80s right here. This is the 80s encapsulated in a figure. is right here. Is Whip It. And they don't even call it Devo. Well, they call it Devo, but he's called Whip It.
Yeah,
which is also the name of a type of dog, but spelled differently, and among other things. And then our other one is, how can we do this, man? Freddie Mercury in his Live Aid 1985 garb, right? I mean, this is like a classic 80s iconic moment in music when Queen hit the stage for Live Aid. So we're gonna give each one of these away.
I did not notice the pose. That's a great pose on that figure.
Yeah, he's got the fist out and
going. That is awesome.
Yeah, he's rocking, and he's even got the little armband on too that he wore during Live Aid, and he's got the faded jeans. So
yeah.
So we're going to be giving away one each. So there'll be 2 winners. Okay, so one person isn't getting both, and you can't choose.
Yeah.
We're gonna say, here's the raffle for this one, and then here's the raffle for that one.
This whole episode, I'm gonna be playing with my Back to the Future hoverboard.
There you go.
That came with my 4K Blu-ray set. So yeah, it's kind of cool. It's just kind of with magnets or something. So it's just kind of cool to just play with there. So anyway.
Yeah, and there's actually something called a hoverboard that you can buy, but it looks nothing like that. It's 2 wheels, and people fall off it, break their tailbone, and then sue the company that made the item. So we're not quite at the real hoverboard yet, but we've got things called the hoverboard. So housekeeping. Thank you to everybody who downloaded or listened to our Sticks episode. Oh my gosh, it went absolutely bananas and bonkers. So thank you for that. Spreading, if you helped spread the word, if you shared it, if you said to someone, hey, check this out, we appreciate it. It's awesome. Tomorrow, we've had this one in the can for a while, and we just we've been holding it back, and we did it way back. And what happened is Black Widow came out. So we wanted to do a Black Widow episode, and that kind of put Batman Begins on the back burner. We had to hold back Batman Begins for a little bit. So tomorrow, Batman Begins will be out. We've got another guest with us, Nick Leshy, he's not here tonight. He let me know. He's like, I won't be there. But Nick Leshy is a writer, a director. He's a blogger. He's got an entertainment blog, City of Kick. So there'll be some links in the show notes there. He's just a great, there you go. Comment if you want to win a raffle prize, Gene. He's just a great friend of the show, and he's really into all pop culture things. So Batman Begins was his choice. So we'll be talking about that. That's coming out tomorrow. Then we've got some more classic rock on the horizon. And then we've got some October stuff. October is going to be a month of horror.
Yeah. And
that's just because we do our show normally. Nothing special. It's just horror.
We won't even need to dress up.
Yeah, it's just going to be, we'll say this is us. This is Halloween
right now. That we're scaring everybody with our mugs.
This is Halloween. There we go. A little Nightmare Before Christmas. So we're talking about the 80s. Oh my gosh, there was a lot to reflect on it. And it's funny, when I first posted the event, I don't know if Dwight is on, but Dwight's like, it's going to have to be like a 4-hour show.
Yeah,
it's like, we're not going to go everything that ever happened in the 80s, because but
4 hours or four episodes or something.
We'll start. We'll start, and we'll see where it goes. We've got some jumping off points and hopefully some memories. Or if you weren't there, you can say, wow, that was really sad, or that was just really strange what they did in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But I think the best place to start off is either with music or movies. So let's go with movies. I compiled some stats, and we'll throw it out there to the group. Okay. And we've got some top charts. And if you're a cheater, You're going to go on Google right now and try and catch up with me. But let's start off with movies. Anybody know what the we're talking the entire decade, not just the year something came out, but what was the top highest grossing film of the 80s? Let's see if anybody's going to grab that one.
Of the entire decade.
The entire decade. Yeah, this is encapsulating. These are the top. I got the top 5 films of the 1980s, top 5 grossing films. Batman 89 is a guess. That's a good guess.
That would be my guess too. So I'm right with Andy with that one. But
Batman 89 is a good guess. Anybody else have any guesses? Indiana Jones. Casey, you're saying Indiana Jones, do you mean Raiders of the Lost Ark, or do you mean Temple of Doom, or do you mean Last Crusade, or which one? Pick your poison. Or pick your dates. Bad dates. Right? Bad dates.
Beth Navarre said Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Which one? Again, 1, 2, or 3? Or Casey is saying Temple of Doom. Interesting. We've got Angie with Return of the Jedi. I'll give you a hint. No one has guessed it yet.
Oh, wow. How about E.T.?
Number 1. Eric didn't see the list, but he's correct. E.T. was the highest grossing film of the 80s. Came out in 1982, 792 million.
Monster.
Million smackaroos. Right? So it had a lot. When that movie came out, it was kind of earth-shattering. And I even saw that in the theater, and I don't usually go for that. Even back then, I was like, the kid stuff.
We were kids.
Well done, Eric. Phone home now. It created a cottage industry for Reese's Pieces. That was, I think, the introduction for Reese's Pieces, right? Because that was what Drew Barrymore laid down, I think, was the Reese's Pieces for him to follow.
Yeah.
The great Peter Coyote was in that film. I love Peter Coyote. Spielberg just following up, right after Close Encounters. That was more of an adult kind of alien thing.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I think was 1941 in between that? That little misfire might have been in between.
Close Encounters was 77, and then he followed that up with 1941.
Yeah, 1941.
79. And then he did the
course correction.
Close Encounters in 80.
Yeah. Then he did a course correction, and in the 80s he was just started swinging for the fences.
And that's that blows my mind, because you think about like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
All of these films, I mean, and E.T. beat them all. That's crazy.
Yeah, with his glowing finger, he just touched them all and said, "You're not grossing near me." And the funny thing is the number 2 isn't even near it. Right, so E.T. was $792 million. Casey was close. Number 2 is Indiana Jones, and The Last Crusade was the second highest grossing film of the 80s. That came out in 1989, $474 million. That's not shabby. That's not too shabby.
I'm just, that blows my mind, because I'm just kind of like, when I think about all the movies of the 80s that,
well, I think
all this stuff. I mean, come on.
Once I go through the top 5, I think you may see a pattern, and it may explain it. Okay. Number 3, Andrew was correct. Batman, 411. The original Batman with Michael Keaton, $411 million. Okay, so he was right in there. That kind of was a watershed moment in film. Also, that was for everything. Number 4. Nobody guessed number 4. It is not a blockbuster like that. It's not an action film. It's not an over-the-top sci-fi film. It came out in 1988.
88. Oh.
And it starred, and one of the stars won an Academy Award that year for their portrayal.
Is it Rain Man?
It is Rain Man.
Yeah.
Good catch. Rain Man was the fourth highest grossing film of the 80s with 354 million. Again, another phenomenon. That was the whole, time for Wapner and all that kind of stuff. Was that movie just kind of caught everybody. And it was like Tom Cruise started like his on his path to working with really high caliber actors, because he had done it in Color of Money with Paul Newman
and directors.
Right? Yeah, and then he paired up with Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man. So he really kind of started the transition from like the Top Gun and the goofy legend and all that kind of stuff into evolving into a serious actor, and then re-evolved into this over-the-top action star. So he kind of had a couple of evolutions. Number 5, Back to the Future 2.
Wow.
$331 million, came out in 1989. So here's what I found interesting, right? E.T. was number 1. It came out in 82. The other 4 films came out in 1989 or 1988.
Crazy.
Okay. What I think that meant, if you see, E.T. had a whole, E.T. had most of the decade to make whatever money it was going to make. All these other movies came out in the last year of the decade or the second last year of the decade. What that means, I think, is the ramp up of the blockbuster, and people started going in en masse to certain movies, whether or not they liked them, right? Like Batman became a movie that everybody just went to. Whether or not you liked Batman, it was such a phenomenon, kind of like Star Wars, but it really became like all these movies became that type of a thing where they became event movies. And it started, they all happened. 3 of them were in 89 and 1 was in 88.
Yeah.
So
I remember Batman. I remember seeing that like in Times Square. I was going to school at that point, down in Manhattan, and that Times Square had the huge billboard of just the symbol.
Yeah.
I just remember that was like a shining, like, wow, it's almost like Gotham City in itself. Like, so that was really cool.
I think I still have the remote control Batmobile somewhere at my parents' house. I don't have the remote anymore, but I got the
you and I saw that together for the first time, didn't we? I'm pretty sure. And because I remember you saying when it was done, that was one long Bat movie.
But it was good. It was good. It was it reinvigorated or just kind of remade or launched superhero movies, because before that you only really had Superman.
That's right.
Yeah. That made any type of money, and that devolved pretty quickly. By the time you got to the third one, and then Richard Pryor, and then fighting the Sun Man or whoever he was on the moon.
God,
it kind of really got goofy. So Batman was that darker take. Michael Keaton, someone that you would not expect to see. He was at that time he was Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom, and is a comedic actor, but he had done Clean and Sober before that. So, all right, let's move on to music. I expect slam dunks on this one. Plus, movies got more expensive every year. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good point, Casey. I don't know if the list I had adjusted for each one, but it was just like total gross. So, but that's a good point as well. Movies were like $2, then there were $5, then there were $7, and then they had a loan officer in the front, taking credit applications.
Well, it's interesting to know too that E.T. was the number 1, not surprising, but when you consider that entire year of 1982, that's when the blockbusters really. There was so much that year, even in the summer. And movies that obviously didn't do too well, but there was just so many, like Rocky 3, you had Tron, you had Conan the Barbarian, you had all these sort of culty kind of movies.
Yeah, that was the thing. They're beloved now, but back then it was kind of like, people were still pretty fickle.
It was everybody coming out of the woodwork to make that kind of film, like fantasy film, sci-fi, all this kind of stuff. With Lucas and Spielberg,
Yeah, they were cashing in on it big time in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
All right, music, albums, top 5 selling albums of the 80s, not singles or songs, top 5 selling albums. The first one should be a gimme. Everybody should pretty much have the same answer in there. And Andy is leading the charge saying Thriller has to be number 1, right? Right? Anybody else have a different opinion than Thriller?
Challenge. He's throwing down the gauntlet.
And Andy says Thriller, change his mind. Number 1 album of the 80s.
Susan
Off the Wall.
Off the Wall.
Well, that's interesting. That was 79.
That was 79 though.
Right?
Yeah.
Or 79?
Yeah,
so close.
Thriller.
Or maybe she's just saying we're off the wall with this subject matter. Could be.
Yeah, that's probably it.
We're gonna hand it out. Thriller was number 1, right? I mean, it's the biggest selling album of all time, so naturally it would be the biggest selling of its decade, unless it came out like on New Year's Eve of 1989. Yeah. So it was number 1. 29 million copies. It unseated Fleetwood Mac, right? Fleetwood Mac Rumors was the biggest selling album of all time. Oops. So yeah, Rumors was the biggest selling album of all time. So they had like a 5-year run. Mm-hmm. That's not bad. And then Thriller just came and it just blew it off the rails.
Casey Thriller.
He was able to, Michael Jackson was able to really break the barrier and penetrate Thriller. MTV with Billie Jean. Yeah. He pioneered the long form video with Thriller. That was like a 10-minute thing. It had a story in the beginning. It had acting. And then and Michael Jackson really became known for that. That became one of his things is shooting long form videos as well. So groundbreaking in a lot of ways.
That was the crossover moment for MTV.
I think Billie Jean was, and then Thriller became like the thing.
Album, the R&B.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Black artist. Michael Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when Thriller premiered on MTV. Yep. I think everybody was watching it. Everybody knew about it. Mm-hmm. It was like an event. And I remember when it came on and watching, it was like this 10-minute thing. It's like, oh my God, just the meshing of music, film, and acting and all that kind of stuff together. Yeah. Was just kind of amazing. So let's move on to number 2. I don't think anybody's going to guess number 2. It was a shock to me, but then I was like, I really shouldn't be too shocked by it. It sold 19.1 million copies. So it did not come close to Thriller. MJ kind of owned the charts. Bad is not in the top 5.
Casey Bow, Thriller.
No, I had that up again. Okay. Number 2. Anybody want to take a crack at what the second highest selling album of the 80s was? It was not. I'll start throwing hints. Was not a solo artist.
Okay.
Oh, close. Hall & Oates. That's not a solo artist. That's a good guess. You'd have to say what album though too, but so we've got one for Hall & Oates.
I have someone in mind, but I'm going to refrain. I want somebody else.
You're going to hold off?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're either they don't know or they're looking on Google right now. And then they're going to type it. So why don't you take a crack at it?
I'm going to guess Joshua Tree. U2.
Well, that's a good guess. No.
Okay.
It was not in the top. Not even in the top 5.
Oh, really? Okay.
AC/DC. Back in Black.
Really?
Yep.
Nice.
Back in Black came out in 1980. Sold 19.1. Mark, Mark. Another hint. Too late. U2 would be a good guess. That would absolutely be a good guess. But no, it was actually Back in Black. Crazy, right? Okay, let's go for number 3. Let's roll through these. We'll keep this going. Number 3 sold 15.9 million. And let's see, Metallica Black.
For Andy.
Just for Andy, just to throw it in there. Solo artist with a backing band. That should give it away. Solo artist with a backing band. And the artist was born in the USA.
That's a good.
Anybody want to take a guess?
Hello.
H2O. That's Hall & Oates. Bruce Springsteen.
That's right.
Born in the USA. Billy Joel. There you go. Sue got it. Bruce Springsteen. Born in the USA. That thing was just out of control as well. 15.9 million copies. Came out in 1984. Okay. The next one, number 4. We're going to roll through these. Number 4 came out in 1987. Right behind Guns N' Roses, 15.6 million. So only 300,000 off of Bruce Springsteen, and would signal another, the coming of a new genre, or reinvigorating a new genre. Came out in 1987, debut album. There's your hint. I saw this group 3 times. 3 times or 4 times? Whitney Houston. No. Nirvana. That's 91. Close, though. Nirvana is somewhat of a hint. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, was the 4th highest selling album of the 80s. That was an absolute monster. That signaled the second coming of like hard rock and roll. They were kind of thrown in with the hair metal bands too. They kind of spawned a lot of copycats, but Appetite for Destruction absolutely was a bellwether for something that was coming on the horizon. We talked about it in our with Andy in our Nirvana episode, that they were kind of a precursor to the rumblings that would eventually spawn grunge. I think that kind of Guns N' Roses was kind of in there, and really not grunge, but that harder edge and that darker themes. And then the last one, I'm going to give it to Andy. Whitney Houston, her debut album, 14.2 million copies, which was her, again, that was like, she just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, this performer with this magnificent voice just came out, just amazing was Whitney Houston. All right, let's have some.
Blows my mind that neither U2 nor Prince made that list.
Yeah.
That top 5. That's crazy.
What was now we'll throw one more out there. What was the number 1 single of the 80s? It was on the charts it was number 1 for 10 weeks. And it was not by any of the previous artists that we mentioned. So that's your hint. It was on the charts for 10 weeks. It was the early 80s.
Solo artist or group?
Solo artist. And it really started a fad. So that'll lead us into fads.
God,
anybody? Number 1 selling single of the 80s was Physical by Olivia Newton-John.
Are you kidding me?
No, it was on the charts for 10 weeks. And that started like the fitness craze. Everybody started wearing the leg warmers. Everybody started wearing the headbands and going to the gym all of a sudden. Like that became an important thing in people's lives, just because of the fashions. And that song, if you remember, was just absolutely everywhere. So that was the biggest selling single of there. So let's talk about fashion.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any fashion that they remember? I've got a list of some fashions, and some are men and some are women's. And whoa, hang on. We got something coming in. Eric's going to be covered. Before we move on from music, one thing I miss about the 80s, absolutely ridiculous, sincerity. Don Johnson, walking the streets, you belong to the city, saxophone player. Like, yeah, she does. Utter sincerity, like it shouldn't work at all, but it only works because it was so sincere. People now would feel like they would have to wink at the camera and make light of it. But back then, yeah, it's just like,
I totally agree.
It was a different feeling. It was, things weren't so self-aware as they are now. What kind of, I think what Andy's getting at is now it's kind of like, it's corny, but back then there was nothing really else to compare it with. And it was genuine and it was absolutely real. And we're looking back on it now and we're going to goof on it. But only because we hopefully have such fond memories and because we lived it and because I used to put mousse in my hair and Eric used to get body waves when he had hair.
That's why I don't have hair.
That was it. They fried him.
And you warned me, didn't you?
I did?
Yeah. You kept saying, you keep getting those things, man. You're going to lose your hair. And
there you go. And I said, there you go. Card.
Yeah. Casey Bauer, Miami Vice. That's right.
Yeah.
Miami Vice.
My Blu-ray
box set right here. I'm, got to,
There we go. And that's going to lead off. That's going to lead off some of the fashion, right? Miami Vice. Miami Vice keeps coming up in our shows. Miami Vice was a forerunner for fashion, right? Because that was something that everybody was watching and just keying off of that. The linen suits, the neon, the t-shirt with the jacket over it. The shoes without the socks, which I still do to this day. So I've carried that tradition. I don't really wear socks a lot with shoes, but that's just me. And just that kind of slick style of dressing. It kind of, when people went out, they started dressing like that instead of like wearing the jeans to the bar and t-shirt. They started kind of dressing up a little bit more.
The only time that I would ever wear pink, is to with a white sport jacket over it and the Cavarici pants and or parachute pants were a thing, or
parachute pants is on the list.
Those cotton linen types,
parachute pants is on the list. That was another men's fad was parachute pants. And if you don't remember it, it was literally like these pants made out of like, I don't know what they were, what material, I guess parachute material. And it's kind of like shiny and you needed to be of a certain body type to rock that. So that was not something that I partook in.
I was a string bean, so I didn't exactly have the right body for it either. I was no Don Johnson, let's put it that way.
So for the ladies, we had things like shoulder pads, and for the men too. Actually, there was a lot of.
Thank you, Casey. I look good in pink.
He's pretty in pink, Casey. The shoulder pads were a thing for men and for women, because in men's jackets they started putting them in, and then women's fashion, they had like straight like that, like right angles, like they would go straight across, like Grace Jones, and you saw like a lot of that on Dynasty, and some of those in Dallas. You saw like a lot of the women with the shoulder pads, and it was big and really just kind of really making people angular.
Right. They even had that in Star Trek on Next Generation, when they had like
still a holdover.
The Romulans, like they
had the shoulder pads.
The shoulder pads that were just like they jutted out.
For the ladies, they also might have worn jelly shoes, which was like these plastic see-through shoes. They were really cheap, and you slid into them. Leg warmers also. So that was kind of the, they went with the whole velour. There we go. Totally forgot about velour. That was the velour shirts was a big thing. Gasket bracelets, right? Were those like the Jordache jeans?
That's right.
Yeah, right? So those were big ones.
Jeans, the high-waisted jeans. Yeah.
Eric had mentioned the Caprizio shoes. If you were wearing a Cavarici suit, if you don't know what a Cavarici suit is, you got to look it up. But you had to wear Caprizio shoes with them, because those were like leather shoes that were really kind of thin leather, but they were like one color.
Or they could have been they could have been canvas as well.
It set the scene. Yeah. It set the scene. There was a lot of it almost seemed like in the 80s, everyone was just throwing everything against the wall that they could, trying it and seeing if it would stick.
Dwight. I got to tell you, they weren't very comfortable, those shoes. Not at all. I mean, it's like,
I have never had the opportunity to wear them. I still stuck to, I was unmoved. Although I have to admit, I did wear some of those Zubaz pants. I did have a pair of those Zubaz pants. They were kind of like, they would have like different like leopard or kind of animal prints on them. And they would kind of have Velcro at the top. I did have a pair of those.
Yeah, I did. One of the things that carried over for me with this
jellies
Vice is the Henleys. Like Don John would wear like the button down Henley.
Yep.
That's like my favorite thing. That's my look. Yeah, especially in the 90s. And of course with Lethal Weapon, when that came out, I wanted to be Mel Gibson, because he used to wear the Henleys with the leather jacket and the jeans and remember I used to wear like the boots, the cowboy boots.
Yep.
Yeah, and they had the hair going like trying to get that mullet thing going, and
the preppy look, right?
It just didn't work.
popping up the collar like this.
That's right.
Benetton, the world of Benetton, the colors, United Colors of Benetton. So if you didn't have it like this and you weren't rocking the Izod, there you go, Izod Lacoste shirts with the little skeleton with the alligator on it.
Wearing one over the other.
Like one's enough.
Izod, but there was that kind of thing going on too, where there were people wearing two.
The rat tail. We're gonna get to hairstyles. Hang on a second. I have one more fashion fad which no one has mentioned yet. And it was something that a lot of people wore. This crossed gender boundaries, and that was the swatch. You remember the swatch watch? Everybody had, you had to have a swatch, right? If you had a, they were like the cheapest pieces of crap, but they were a fashion statement. If you had a swatch, right? It was like this really plastic thing, but it was a big thing. Having a swatch was the big deal. So you had your preppy look with your polo shirt, and you had a swatch. There you go. Mark had one. Right. That was the thing. Having a swatch was like a status symbol as well. It was like you had to have them. Mm-hmm. This is the ultimate. A swatch poster. Of what? The watch?
Oh,
the swatch poster. That's like the extreme. That's like,
excuse me.
That's like extreme fandom.
Yeah.
Gym shorts over your sweats.
Yeah.
Casey had many swatches. I hope you didn't wear them all at once. Some people double up on the watches. That was a thing too. It's crazy. Gym shorts over your sweats, right? That was like that was kind of like that Rocky look. Is you had the sweats and then you had the shorts on over them because you just needed to. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you didn't. Hopefully you didn't have the stains with it.
Sweat. Transparent watch face as a poster. Interesting. That's actually kind of cool. I may look that up on eBay. So let's move from fads from fashion into hairstyle, because Andy started off with the rat tail. Had to wear more than one. Absolutely. You had to have more than one. I didn't have any swatches. I had a Casio. Actually, in the 80s, I was big into Mickey Mouse watches for some reason. I don't know why. It was just one of those things. I was like,
Casio. I remember Casios were a big deal.
Casios were a big deal for the geeks. For the geeks that didn't wear the swatches, we wore the Casios. So there we go. Mullet. That was one of the ones that was on my list. Business in the front, party in the back. And Eric, I think you had a mullet at some point.
I don't know if it was.
You had a lot of hair, so it would be kind of cut on the side.
I wanted that wavy Mel Gibson type hair that he had in like Lethal Weapon, right? That's but it was not exactly a mullet because it wasn't. If I had left my hair straight, it would have been a mullet.
Yeah.
No doubt, because my hair was too straight. That's why I wanted that wavy look. I was obsessed.
I think I may have had one as well, inspired by Bono's mullet, because Bono had a mullet in the 80s. Right? And that was kind of like, okay, the feathered hair was the big thing, right? It's kind of for the ladies, kind of, even for the guys, kind of, everybody was really like primping and preening in the 80s. Like
I had my big purple comb. And everybody makes fun of me now. Like my son, Zach, they all make fun of, because
there's a question for you.
Did you have a perm? I had a body wave. I had body waves. I would get, because I had really, really straight hair that really I couldn't do anything with. So I would get like my hair, like, I went the whole route with curls, but then it would end up getting cut on the sides, and it would be like this kind of wavy kind of,
look up
Mel Gibson,
Well, I'm going to say look up the group Ice House from the 80s and look up the lead singer.
Okay, well, that's fair. You're right.
My hair disaster was using mousse. I fell into the mousse crowd.
Yeah.
Where you would kind of shoot the mousse. It would kind of look like shaving cream. You'd, spike up your hair, but it wasn't like gel. So, and then you'd blow dry your hair, and I'd be pulling it down and blow drying it, and then going out and not meeting anybody. So it was really, honestly, just a waste of time for me to get into that whole fashion, because I really didn't get anything out of it. Just, whatever. It's maybe like Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever. Like you hit the hair. Told you not to hit the hair.
Not to touch the hair. That was me too. But like in this, that at that when my hair was long,
you hit my hair.
I always parted in the middle. It was always parted in the middle. I never parted my hair on the side. It just wouldn't go that way. It was always, that's where it ended up.
So two more for the ladies. What about hair crimping? That was where it had that like angled look. It looked like it was at 90-degree angles, and it would just be long and have like these crinkles in it, right? The crimped hair. There you go. Sue has the hair crimping. There we go. Was crimped hair was like one of those things for the ladies. And then the other one, this is what it was called. He had a spike in the part. Lots of hairspray.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Right? It was like fashion over comfort. That's what it was. It was fashion over comfort. It was a lot of the stuff was not comfortable, but we did it to be fashionable.
We did
and wore these things to be fashionable. Now it's kind of like, I've got one more ladies hairstyle, and it's called the whale spout. Does anybody recognize the whale spout?
Was it?
And that's basically where your hair is pulled up in the right here and then tied off, and you have like a whale, like this thing of hair coming out, like almost like pebbles, but without the bone.
Okay. Well, Kelly kind of does it. My wife Kelly does that.
Well,
she
tell
puts
her
her hair up like that, and she pulls it, and it's like she looks like Padme from.
There you go. Tell her
Wars,
that's the whale spout. It was not a thing for guys.
She's got like this crown, and like it almost comes down like this. It's crazy.
That is the whale spout hairdo, which is absolutely crazy. That was just like one of those. So fads. There was a lot of fads, a lot of weird stuff. It was such a weird time because of the way that music was changing. And I think music was driving the fashion, because a lot of this stuff was inspired. People were dressing like Michael Jackson out in public, like wearing red leather jackets and literally wearing one glove and walking around. And people were dressing like Madonna, like the lace, the fingerless gloves, like Beth said, the
fishnet stockings,
the fishnets, but the rubber friendship bracelets, like those rubber gaskets, like the Cyndi Lauper look. I mean, a lot of these music artists were driving fashion, not intentionally, but just because of the way they were. The
big earrings, like the hoop earrings, and
lots of neon, right? Like neons, pastels, all these different like wild things. Like anything went in the 80s. Like you could get away with anything, and nobody really kind of gave you a second glance. It was just because everything was so far out there that nobody really thought twice about it. It was like, it's got to be something.
If you just wore
Patrick Nagel art prints, there you go. Those are still popular. Those are still around, the Nagel art prints.
I think if you just wore like a white t-shirt and jeans, you would probably like what's wrong.
That was the Levi. That was the Levi's crew, because denim on denim. So wearing a denim jacket and denim pants.
Well, that was like the
acid wash jeans, right?
That look of Johnny Depp and these guys are like just kind of like C. Thomas Howell and like Patrick Swayze and
the button fly jeans and the acid wash jean, all the different types of washes of jeans were a thing. Big belts for women with long sweatshirts or sweaters and leggings, tying off for ladies, tying off the t-shirt on the side, making a knot in it and tying it off on the side, right? It was just like whatever. It's like we'll just do whatever and it'll work.
It was the shirt off the shoulder, the oversized shirt off the shoulder, and then just whatever underneath, a bra or whatever.
Wake me up before you go. Yeah. Let's move on to fad. So we were talking about fads. So there was a couple I'd forgotten about, or just some phenomenons also. But whoa, here we go. Who's this? Andy, covering up Eric again. Just a random musing. One thing modern movies that are set in the 80s always get wrong is they make bedrooms and living rooms look like everybody owned what was cutting edge for that exact year. You're right. When in fact, probably all the way up to 86 or 87, everyone's house had the same wood paneling, shed carpet, and couches from the 70s, random cattle. You're right. Same Halloween decorations. Everyone portrays the 80s now as all the neon and laser grids. But I remember mostly being brown, dull yellow, and burnt orange. The 80s had a really unique pop culture stuff, but didn't start permeating into homes till the 80s. Yeah, that's an interesting take on that, because, a lot of it was it wasn't everywhere, but you kind of remember that it was, or you felt like it was. Like I didn't wear neon all the time, but I probably had some neon sweatbands when I played softball or something. So I think pieces of that kind of got in there. And our parents that were born, whatever, they didn't say, oh, we're going to be hip and modern and start, redoing our house. It was more the, it was more the exterior, right, of how you dressed when you left the house, or how that's sorry for the short novel. No, we're gonna encourage you to self-publish on Amazon.
It was almost like you were wearing
waterbeds were huge in the 80s.
Almost like it was a uniform.
Yeah.
Like, right. You
Ankle
go out,
boots.
you know, that became your look. You
Dusty
know,
Rose or Seafoam Green.
you didn't
Ferris
wear that
Bueller's
stuff
Room
around the house. You know.
Yeah, it was kind of an exterior thing, and you saw it in the architecture of the time. So new buildings that were going up started to reflect this modern look to it, and the angles and all that kind of like the grid stuff that Andy refers to is when you started to see it in advertising more.
Yeah.
Then people weren't redoing their houses, but in art, advertising, television, architecture, all those things started to kind of go in there. Like when they build a new movie theater, it'd have all the neon, it would have neon, like candy and popcorn and all, like all that kind of signage, which was decidedly 80s. And then, like Beth said, against a seafoam green wall.
A very colorful period. You know, you watch Miami Vice, and every building in Miami Vice has like even the shoddy, like where the drug dealers are, there's still some kind of little broken piece of neon or something like hanging on the wall.
If you didn't know better, if you didn't know
you that this is the 80s,
absolutely. And if you didn't know better, you would think Batman Forever was filmed in the 80s. There's so much neon in that movie, and this kind of lighting that you think you would have thought that was filmed in the 80s. So let's move on. Let's go to fads. Does anyone remember what kind of fads or toys they had back then? I'll start you off with one. Koosh balls.
Mm-hmm.
The Koosh ball had all the little rubber strands, and it had a core in the middle, and all the kind of the rubber strands. It was all different colors. Was the Koosh ball became a big thing in the 80s. A lot of kids had that. They would be throwing them around. They were easy to catch, and it looked like a furry thing, but it was made out of rubber.
Skateboards were big.
Skateboards were big in the 70s, and they went through to the 80s. I used to skateboard.
I had
absolutely
a skateboard before everybody else had a bike. I had a skateboard. I was hanging off the back of other people's bikes as they, going down hills and whatnot.
All right, here we go. Yeah, we got skateboarding. Smurfs. Right, that's correct. Sue got one off my list. Hacky sacks. That was for the hippie crowd and for the tie-dye crowd. The hacky sack became like the thing of a bunch of kind of dirty looking teenagers standing around in a circle kicking this thing around. Sorry. Kids on my block had a pogo ball club. Well, there were two of us. Casey said the same thing. Is a pogo ball the thing that you'd jump around? It was like a ball on an end of a plastic, and you would spin it around and jump over it. Is that what a pogo ball is? That's new to me. Magic 8 Ball?
Yeah, Dwight.
Does she love me? Shake the 8 ball. Ask again later. Shake it again. Future does not look good. It's like, all right, I'm giving up on the Magic 8 Ball.
Or is it yeah.
It was a hippie. That's right.
Yeah, so guys, what is a pogo ball? Is that?
I got to look it up now. I'm going to look it up real quick. I think I know what it is.
Rubik's Cube. Yep.
Who said Rubik's Cube?
Beth Navarre and Sue Procopo.
Pogo ball is like a ball. Okay. It's exactly what it says. It's a ball, and it's got a flat like platform on it, and then the ball on top, and you would stand on either end and kind of jump around. Yeah, like a pogo stick, but just a ball. Rubik's Cube. Another one taken from my list. That was a sensation, and I could never figure it out. I would have to take one piece off so I could take it all apart and then snap it together in the right colors.
You're always taking everything apart.
And it took like a year, but hey, I finally did it. I was never good at Rubik's Cube. I didn't have
he's the big tinkerer.
At the time. Yeah, I just didn't have it. So we got let's see what we got off my list. The Koosh ball, the hacky sack, the Rubik's Cube. I have two other ones. Car surfing was big. People riding on the top of their car, on the roof of their cars for some reason, or
Dwight, remember that? I did that. Remember, Dwight? I was right on the hood of your car. Remember your I think it was your the yellow car.
The Cutlass?
The Cutlass. Yeah.
See that?
He's driving like 80 miles an hour down the street. I could have been killed. That was like I did my own stunts back in the day, folks.
Eric actually fell off the car, but his body wave shouldered the blow for him, and it landed softly.
Yeah, it's like
it expanded like an airbag when he hit the ground. Like, poof.
Yeah, stickers were huge.
Stickers was big.
Yeah, they had all the garbage pail kids, and you had all that
rollerblades. Rollerblades, I think, was an 80s thing. I think it was a late 80s thing. That's a good question. It definitely wasn't early 80s. I can tell you that much. I don't know if that was like straight up 80s or 90s.
I'm thinking 90s. I'm thinking.
You think so? They were also known as inline skates for people that wanted to use the technical term.
Roller skating in general.
Pins for your jean jacket.
80s thing. You'd think of Xanadu, right?
Roller skating was big in the early 80s.
Was huge. Yeah.
Simon.
Yes.
Cutlass Salon. That's what Eric wrote on top of the Cutlass Salon. That was the one with the T roof.
I wasn't on the T roof. I was on the hood of the car hanging off.
Car surfing. Who and why? Actually, what became sillier, the recent fad was ghost riding, right? Is you'd get out of the car while it was driving, and then walk alongside of it and take a video of yourself. and you can see a lot of videos where that went wrong.
Yeah.
How about Care Bears? Care Bears were gigantic, along with their brethren, the Cabbage Patch Kid.
Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah.
Those two, you couldn't escape it, whether you were of the age or not. God, Care Bears and Cabbage Patch Kids were everywhere, right? And it was just one of those things that was just you couldn't get away from. And the I think Cabbage Patch Kids started like the whole mania thing. People needed to have it, and people were getting kind of nasty about yanking them out of each other's hands in the store.
Yeah, it took a whole year for my sister to get one. So and
look at that. We have two comments in a row. Styles from Teen Wolf with car surfing, and then Dwight said maybe Eric watched Teen Wolf the night before.
I wasn't quite. I wasn't standing on the hood of your car. I remember I was just. I think I was leaning against the windshield, as I recall, with my hands.
Fun.
Safe. And you were like,
Dwight's like, I'm going to push this for all I can. I want to see if he can roll them off, shake them off. Pound puppies, those were a big thing too. A lot of a lot of things for kids, like for young kids, right? You're talking Garbage Pail Kids came out in the 80s as well. So there was like, and that's where the stickers come in, right? You had the Cabbage Patch Kids, and then they took that and parodied it, and you had like the kid with the snot in his nose laying in the street, and he was called whatever, and Dirty Dean, and whatever, like all these kind of weird things, and they made like little sticker.
Yeah, but then you also had what was the one with the they were brands.
That was the 70s. That was the wacky packages or wacky packs.
Okay, so you had like Campbell's soup, and it was
those were the 70s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, those were like a big thing. Those were like everybody collected those, and then on the back of the card it would be like a puzzle.
Chuck Taylors, we called them cons in New York. We never called them Chucks. It was
Converse.
They were cons. Then when I came to Florida, it's like what the hell are Chucks? Like, and that's more accurate because that's the name is right on the shoe.
They said, "Get out of here, Yankee."
Go back.
Bubblegum, right? That was big in the 80s, but was gum in general was big in the 80s. Like if you wanted to succeed in school, or if you wanted to have at least in my estimation, if you wanted to have any chance with the ladies in school, if you had gum, you were popular. Like if as soon as the word got out that someone had a pack of gum, everybody started, hey, can I get some of that? There was Bubble Yum and Bubblicious. And watermelon, like Bubblicious, was like the best thing. Or Freshen Up gum. Do you remember Freshen Up gum? It had the little liquid in it, the gum that goes squirt. In the 80s would you have gum that had liquid in it, and which was more really like liquid sugar.
Yeah, it was like it was like syrup.
Only in the 80s. Freshen your breath with Freshen Up gum, the gum that goes squirt.
Of course, we had New Coke.
Yeah,
which was disgusting.
The backlash. Well, it tasted like Pepsi. That was the thing. Is New Coke was trying to compete with Pepsi, because back in the day, also they used to have those commercials, the blind taste test, Coke versus Pepsi, and they would have to choose, and people would choose Pepsi, and Coke was getting their clock cleaned. Because Coke has a decidedly different taste, and Pepsi is much sweeter. So they decided, we're just going to come out with New Coke. Not only did they come out with New Coke, but they got rid of the original Coke recipe. So this was all that was available. So it's not like you had a choice. It was just kind of, here's the new Coke. And the backlash was so big that they went back and released what's called now what they called Classic Coke. Like they had to go back on that, and people were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like we like Coke because it tastes different than Pepsi.
That's right.
You know, and they actually had to go back and retire new Coke, and get rid of it, and then bring back what was called Classic Coke, which we know now as just Coke. It's back to just Coke. Video games exploded in arcades. Arcades were giant in the 80s. Arcades were like for someone of the right age like me, it was like a magical wonderland. Eric had no use for arcades. For me, it was like walking into like a wonderland of sight and sound.
Oh, the money spent in this place.
And just it was the reason it was the reason to have a job. The only reason I decided I needed a job was to fuel my heroin-like addiction to arcade games. and putting quarter after quarter up on Defender so I had next. It was just crazy. My obsession with video games was bar none. And it was literally working to pay Nathan's employees to give them so they could give me change. So I would hand them a 20. They'd give me $20 in quarters. I would go put it in a machine. And it was just, I should have just handed them the money and walked out because that would have been just quicker. And then we could have gotten out of there.
True. We should have been like, sort of sneaking into clubs.
For those that don't, okay, I'm sorry,
girls.
For those that don't know, in New York, Nathan's everyone hopefully knows Nathan's hot dogs, right? We're kind of getting a little inside baseball. So Nathan's hot dogs, and in Yonkers, New York, Nathan's had this. It was like one of the original Nathan's restaurants. It was gigantic. It was immense. It had a big seating area. They had a bakery in there. It was crazy, and then they also had this massive arcade. And it was an aggressive arcade. When I say that, meaning they were always getting the new stuff. It wasn't like they had, Tank, these vector graphic games from way back. They were always on the cutting edge of getting the new stuff. And you could almost bet your bottom dollar every week or every other week there'd be something new there. So they really were just, they were like the drug dealer on the corner. They were like your first taste is free. And then once you got hooked, you were going there every time. Yeah, right. Come on, Johnny and Eric. I traveled all over Coleco for ColecoVision games, right? Watch the screens and TVs, right? There was
the only game system I ever had was ColecoVision.
I remember the TV store in Dobbs Ferry on Main Street. There was like this guy that repaired TVs, and he kind of would sell some. And when the video game explosion happened, he got like one of the consoles, might have been Odyssey or one of those really obscure ones, and he just had it set up like on demo, like running. So you could literally go in front of his store all night, and that thing was just running the demo of playing games. And I remember that too. It was like, and I would like be like licking the glass, like salivating, like I want that.
Venture. I had Venture. I had the Rocky. Remember, Dwight? We had Rocky. I think you and I bought that together. Dwight Burke. We bought that Rocky. I think you had the controls and I had the actual game or something like that. And
Rocky had a special controller for ColecoVision.
So we had to kind of either go to your house or whatever just to play the damn game and
bring it over
because you had the controllers and so But yeah,
you know what else became a cottage? We had Odyssey, right? Odyssey was like one of the ones. Two cottage industries that started in the 80s. Horror film franchises, right? That horror film franchises really started in the 80s, right? With the advent really of the Friday the 13th part 2, I think came out in the 80s. The first one I think was late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe been right on 80. Andrew can probably correct me on that. But that started a cottage industry of sequelizing horror films, which had never really been done. The Universal Monsters was kind of a different thing. And then you had Nightmare on Elm Street, and then that became like a cottage industry. Yeah. That was just like one of those things that started in the 80s, like sequelitis became such a big thing. He had ColecoVision running all night, Cosmic Avengers and Smurfs. The other thing, which was a curious thing in the 80s, was teen sex movies. There was a whole bunch of these like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and Last American Virgin, all these movies about guys, like young guys wanting to have sex. Yeah. And how could they have sex? And their
coming of age.
Yes, their lack of access for sex was it. And in the 80s, there was so many of those like, quote unquote harmless teen films, and they just kind of, running around doing kind of tawdry and some lewd things. Mr. Turtle. Yeah. Even jumped on a bus for Toys R Us, said they had and they didn't. They lied. That was before the internet when you could check stock instantly a no.
That's right. You had to take a bus somewhere. You had to actually go to the store.
Right?
To,
Meatballs with Bill Murray, like all those kind of film, like a lot of the what we know for like I said, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's. You go to Meatballs, then you go to Caddyshack, then you graduate to Ghostbusters. Like there was a lot of those
Fast
classic
Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, Fast Times. A lot of those classic like films. Like I don't know if they get away with some of that stuff now. Took two buses. Took two buses.
Not too much. That's like buried way underground. That
well, again, they come off as weird now too. It's just kind of like they come off as self-aware. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
It's got to be a gimmick, yeah. Like for what's the summer one with summer camp, wet summer camp or something like that? That came out
Hot,
in the
wet,
night. Hot,
wet,
yeah,
but that's supposed to be Hot, Wet, Hot American. Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, that's a kind of a parody on.
It's supposed to be. It's kind of wink, wink.
Like, yeah.
But nowadays it's kind of like, yeah, it was a weird time of innocence.
Some of these movies, like I remember one, it was The Last American Virgin.
Yeah,
that's like a more of a culty, kind of. That's not one you
definitely
really,
is.
I remember like that was such a messed up ending of that movie because the girl ends up like he's in love with the girl and she's seeing the hot guy. He gets her pregnant and then she ends up going back to that dude, like the jerk that left her in the dust,
Welcome to real life.
And then the guy is like that's the way the movie ended. He's like driving in the car and he's crying, like the tear. There's like I think it's like Peebo Bryson or somebody.
Like, say that
the song, like the
Welcome to real life.
Yeah, that was like a smack in the face. I was like, wow,
like, what chance do I have?
Didn't get the girl, so yeah, that was
it didn't work out the way he planned. Also, the 80s was the advent probably of two of the most important technological advances. I think of recent memory would be the first one would be the Walkman, right? Which made everybody. A lot of us had the boom boxes back then. And you had to really lug that around, and it took like 8D batteries. But that was how you could listen to music portably. But that meant everybody else was listening to the same music. Mm-hmm. Sony releases the Walkman, and it revolutionized the way people consume music. You could now take it with you portably, privately, also, and walk around. And it actually, in a weird way, did start disconnecting people, right? Because you started to see people all over the place walking around with their cassette decks with their headphones on.
Yeah.
And just listening to music on their own. And yeah, the cassette tape and the advent of the portable cassette deck with Sony innovating with the Walkman, and every company had a knockoff. Everybody was making them, and you were able to have them. The second one is the compact disc.
Yeah.
In the 80s. That was a sonic revolution. That was something that actually started bringing people back home to listen to music. They did make some portable ones, but they were very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But the CD, the compact disc, the advent of the compact disc at the time for me, the Iowa Walkman from Rodney's Video Warehouse in White Plains. Rodney's had the music section in the basement. That was Harvey Sound in White Plains. Had the music in the basement.
Yep.
Rodney's was on Mamaroneck Avenue, and there was just a massive electronics place. But the compact disc kind of really, especially for people if you of a certain age, like I was when I was a kid, I had like a cheesy record player and a decent cassette deck. So that was like as good as music got. And I'll never forget, and it's ingrained in my memory forever, is that when Eric's parents got him a CD player, a home, they got him like the Sony, whatever it was, it
first Sony,
and he plugged it in, and he plugged in the headphones, and he had Fleetwood Mac Mirage CD. And when he put it on, and you hear nothing, and then you hear the music starting, and I was absolutely blown away. I was not prepared because usually when a tape, you know the roller, and you know when it hits that part, and then you hear it. It was dead silence, and then it was music, and I was absolutely blown away. It was earth shattering for me that, like, oh my God, I didn't know music could sound that good, because I listened to music all the time, but never had the ability to have anything decent, because I was a kid,
Andy, you get a lot of that CDs. You're right. That those hi-hats, a lot of high end, a lot of like
beta.
You hear that, yep, you're absolutely right.
Beta. Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. And, hearing it for the first time, it was almost like hearing music for the first time, and it really kind of, I went bats. I'm like, I have to figure out a way to get a CD player. And I ended up buying a portable one from Crazy Eddie, if anybody remembers that. It was a Sony, and it was a portable one. It was pretty expensive, but it was something that I could also carry around. So I was kind of already trying to go for the portable part too, and then I could plug it into my car, etc. Mom and pop VCR rental stores were huge growing up. I remember seeing the same posters on the wall. Absolutely, going to the video store in the 80s was a new thing. That was like a new industry of having a VCR, right? So you could record stuff. Mm-hmm. But then like, oh, there's movies that you can go get and bring home and watch.
That's right.
And that was like a new thing. That was like, oh, you didn't have to wait for it to come on, channel 11 or channel 7. You could go
if
back.
You were lucky to have cable, which I didn't have cable.
Yeah, if you didn't have cable, you can go and rent. I remember when my parents got a VCR. I went to the rental store. I rented a movie called Drive-In Massacre. And and my parents kind of were not comfortable with like sex and violence, watching it with with their kids, and it had plenty of both. And at some point my mother was like, turn this off, I'm like, well, it's Drive-In Massacre or whatever it was. But
the point is that you were watching a movie on your television.
We were watching a movie. It was
matter what it was.
You were
that was my parents too. We would my aunt and uncle would come down every weekend. We had like my very first VHS tape was Raiders of the Lost Ark, which we bought. We didn't rent it and tape it. We actually bought the movie, and we played that thing out, and I just, that was really special for me because, film was a big, especially in the 80s, film, that was like my coming of age time for movies. And that's when I really got to fall in love with movies and such. But so having it on your television was a big deal.
Yeah, it brought that experience home.
And going to these places were very special too, because it was before Blockbuster, like in the 90s, like they had the corporate places. These places were really cool. Like Andy was saying, you remember those boxes, you remember the posters, especially like you mentioned,
Faces of Death.
That's right.
Faces of Death. Everybody rented Faces of Death.
Yeah.
And was horrified. And then we found out it was fake later. So it wasn't really real.
Yeah.
One more fad, and we're going to start to wrap up. One more fad from the 80s, which is a board game. Trivial Pursuit became the board game in everybody's house. That replaced Monopoly. It replaced Battleship. It replaced the Game of Life. Everybody had Trivial Pursuit and was trying to fill up their little pie with the different pieces in answering really tough trivia questions too. It wasn't, these weren't like gimme softball questions. Trivial Pursuit was really it was a tough game. Like, cause it was like politics and, geography. And it's like, okay, pre-internet. So you had to have paid attention in high school.
This is before, like you said, this is before all the Splinter, like the add-on, like the very specific topics.
The Genius Edition.
It was just the random stuff,
Yep,
and then it became
crazy.
Like, now it's like everything. You can get any kind of topic or pop cultural thing with it. But
so pretty neat. So it's a little bit after 9. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think we've kept everybody long enough. In our venture. See, Dwight, we did it in an hour, and I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm sure we left out politics, we left out news, we left out all that kind of stuff, but that's not fun to talk about anyway. We talk about the fun stuff here and reminisce. And I have my pink neon cap and my Hawaiian cap on. So before we get to the drawing, if you were not here or if you came late, anybody that left a comment, I have your name in a randomizer called the Wheel of Names, and I'm going to try and share the screen so we can do it. And you can see actually who wins right here. But we're going to be giving away a Funko Pop of Devo Whippet in honor of the 80s. And then we've got Mr. Mercury, Freddie Mercury in his Live Aid outfit, giving the fist to the fans as he wowed them at Wembley. And we're going to be drawing, and one winner will get that. One winner will get this. I will ask, we've got serial killers. Yeah, there was a lot of those. One winner will each one of those. And then we will reach out to you on Facebook via Messenger. Get your info, and we'll get them out in the mail, and then you can enjoy it and hopefully take a picture and tag us and put that on social media. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna have to. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna share my screen, which is gonna be. Eric might go away, and I'm probably gonna go away unless I can figure out a way to put us on the side. I think I can do it. But we're gonna do the drawing live, so there's no controversy about who picked who, and this was a setup, and how could you do that? I'm gonna avoid all that controversy by doing it right now. Fun in front of everybody. We're going to draw it there and you're going to see the winner live. So, Eric, who do we want to draw for first? Do you want to whip it or do you want to give away Freddie Mercury?
Let's go with Devo first.
We're going with Devo first. So Devo first, which is whip it. Oddly enough, for some reason, what's his name? Gerard Casal from Devo. He has a new single out and it came up on YouTube and I listened to it. And then something new from Devo came up and I never really listened to Devo. And I'm like, and these guys are older now. I'm like, it's actually kind of cool. Their new stuff, kind of digging it. So anyway, all right. So we're going to go to share on my controls. Eric, you may disappear. I hope not. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Hang with us, everybody. We're going to share a window or we're going to share a Chrome tab. Wheel of names. So we're going to disappear. If we do this right, we may disappear, but you're going to see a wheel and it's got everybody's name in it that left a comment. I'm going to then mix up the names a couple times and then spin the wheel. All right, so let's try this. Let's see how it works. Can everybody see that? Let us know. Show on stream. Let's see. Let's see if we can move this over and get the stream on there. Nope. Hang on. Sorry, everybody. There we go. How's that work? Can everybody can see the wheel of names and we can see, not yet. How about now? Can you see the wheel of names and see us? Still no.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Give us a moment. Somebody give me another no officially. Yes. There we go. See, you just gotta wait for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to randomize the names. I'm going to shuffle them up because I just did it in the order that everybody came in. So we're going to shuffle. We have 6 entries as far as I know, right? We have Susan, Mark, Andrew, Dwight, Casey, and Beth. Is that correct? Did I miss anybody? I think that's everybody, right? Or forever hold your peace. Okay, here we go. I'm going to click to spin and our first winner, and this is for Devo. This is so exciting.
This is cool.
This is exciting. And it is Susan gets the Devo. It's going to come up and say, winner. There she is. So we have a winner. So Sue, you win the Devo. So we'll be contacting you. Give us your address and we'll get this out in the mail to you directly. And you've got yourself a little Devo. So we're going to remove you from the pod because you already won. You can't double dip. That's not fair. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle everybody up again.
This is for Freddie.
This is for Freddie. Now the odds have just improved because we've eliminated one. So it was 1 out of 6. Now it's 1 out of 5. So the odds are improving. And this is for Freddie. And here we go. Dwight's got the Freddie Mercury. Congratulations, Dwight. Going to reach out to you via messenger. We'll get this in the mail to you directly. And to Sue, we've got your Devo. Whip it. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody for coming by and thanks for playing. Ready for Freddie? We appreciate it. Again, our housekeeping is tomorrow. We've got a new episode, which is Batman Begins. Beginning of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, kind of reinvigorating the Batman franchise. So we'll be talking about that. We've got our special guest, Nick Leshy, who is a writer, a director, entertainment blogger. He's a multi-hyphenate. He does it all, but it was a lot of fun to have him. So we're going to be talking about that. And then we've got some music stuff coming up. And then in October, we're going to be doing a whole month of Halloween related stuff. It's just going to be all kinds of Halloween fun. So thank you, everybody. Again, we appreciate your support. Sharing is caring. If we're going to go to the Care Bears, sharing is caring. So if you do care about us, if you ever cared about us, if you ever felt anything for Eric, or if you ever felt anything for me, share those posts when they come out. Get other people to listen and check out the podcast. I'm quoting Tombstone at the end when Val Kilmer was like, Wyatt, if you ever cared anything about me, leave now.
And if you guys, if you like what we're doing with these live broadcasts, I mean, if you got any ideas, please let us know.
And send them our way.
Send them our way. We'd love to, topics, anything you want to talk about. So we would love to hear from you.
Cool. So I forgot to do it the last time, but I'm going to do it this time. We do have like a closing thing. We're not just going to you're not going to see us like clicking off uncomfortably as we're kind of waiting for it to like end. We've got the end. We've got the end playing. So we appreciate everything. Thank you guys. Stay safe. We're going to schedule another one in a couple of weeks because, again, we have a blast with these. So much fun. Yeah. But again, tomorrow, Batman Begins. And then if you go check out some of the other stuff, Styx was this past week. If you like Paradise Theater, go check out our discussion on that. And we've got a whole back catalog of great stuff to listen to of music and movies. So on behalf of Eric, or Eric can say his own goodbye.
Bye, guys.
There he is.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Yep. We will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.